In today's video, I'm going to share with you some things that I found really interesting from the world of Football Manager recently. That's it. Come on. We start with a Reddit post titled, "My goalkeeper won the Balon d'Or in 2039 at the age of 19. And this really caught my attention because I just love it. I love the way that this appeals to the way that I like to play Football Manager and the stories that you try and create for yourself in your own little magical world. That's what Football Manager is for me. It was posted by Time Fragments 24 Hours, who I think 24 Hours might apply to how much he plays this game. And he managed to achieve the Balon d'Or for a goalkeeper, which in itself I think is really difficult to go and do because strikers, attackers are usually the players that win the Balon d'Or in the game. I mean, they're the players that win the Balon d'Or in real life, aren't they? This man here, though, managed to, well, let's let him explain it himself. He's got the player Matthias Santiago, 19 years old, French goalie, 41 appearances. He kept 23 clean sheets, average rating of 7.66, and that was enough for the Balon d'Or. And he starts, well, he goes into detail here explaining how he managed to do it. And I'm going to share it with you today because if you haven't seen this, it's glorious. It's glorious football managing. It doesn't start great. He says he was groomed for this groomed is a really interesting choice. Why is it in bold as well? Right. We'll move past that. Before his arrival, Palermo's squad was a world-class team. I assume he was managing Palermo. Yeah. They had won everything, and he'd set up the under-18s and under-20s to make every transition seamless. It's what we're all trying to achieve in FM, isn't it? He was also controlling the under-20 squad for every match so he could develop faster. So that the keeper could develop faster with mentoring and the world-class facilities helping along the way. So everything had been set up to try and make this work. And the way that he actually then achieved it was to put him on penalties and set pieces, as well as getting him to play as a sweeper keeper on attack. So more key passes, which key passes massively impact the average rating of a player, don't they? So he was making it possible for him to get 8+ average ratings, which it's going to be the average rating that is going to influence the Balon d'Or most, of course, as well as things like, I mean, for strikers, it's like the goal score, but then I think it really just does come down to the average rating most of the time. And reputation, I think, comes into it too. And if Palermo are already the best team in the world, which is probably the case here in 2039, that's going to help him with the rep, which is going to help him with the average rating to go and win the award here. He also set up the training for the team so that it focused on goalkeeper development because the other players were good enough anyway, and set pieces and penalties because he was going to take them. Only his technique improved in this, and free kicks got lower, but that's just, I mean, that's an FM quirk, isn't it? So he was training the whole squad specifically to make the goalkeeper better, which is great. And then he also didn't play him in games against harder opponents so that he wouldn't get a lower average rating by conceding goals. And then, eventually, he managed to score 29 goals, over 60 assists, I assume from these corners, from the set pieces, as well as scoring the goals from the penalties. He had 38 player of the matches in 4.5 years in all competitions. And then eventually, he managed to win him the Balon d'Or. I assume also he chose the goalkeeper because he already had a decent set piece attribute, so like goalkeeper penalties and things like that, he might have chosen him from there. This is his profile here if you wanted to have a look at how he looked as a goalie. You see the training of 9.55 there. This clearly took a lot of time, dedication. You see the development there, which is pretty steady over the years. There's the stats look and the average ratings. There is also the most assists in a season to show those. I'm just in awe of the dedication. I had to share this video with you. I'm almost tempted to try and do this myself and create a whole video of trying to win a goalkeeper the Balon d'Or inspired by Time Fragments 24 Hours. If you want to see that, let me know in the comments down below. And let's have a look at what's next. Oh, by the way, just hopefully you enjoyed this type of video. I've just had the urge to just talk about Football Manager stuff, just really informally with you guys. And I just think it'd be a really nice way of doing some videos every now and then. So if you like it, please do let me know in the comments down below. And also we need a name for this if it does become a series. So suggestions in it down below. I'm thinking something like Football Manager Lately, FM Lately, something like that. Let me know if you like the name. Anyway, suggestions in the comments down below, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of these. Thank you very much. Next up, I want to talk to you about, of course, the huge development update released in a blog this week by Sports Interactive. Football Manager 2025 has been officially announced, if you want to call it that. There's a development update, a huge blog, which I'm going to bring you the key points from if you've not managed to read this. I know a lot of you will have read this already. I want to give my opinions on some of these points too. Talking about the next era of Football Manager. Now, we already know that FM25 is moving engines that it is on. It's moving to the Unity engine, so the game is having to be rebuilt from the ground up almost. They are having a new user interface, a UI. So if I say UI, that's what I'm talking about. And it's the start of a completely new era at Football Manager and at Sports Interactive. They have been talking about how they've been reviewing their approach and then what is changing. The first thing that I think caught a lot of people's attention in this blog was the fact that because of the changes, and I'm going to read between the lines here and think, because of the new engine that everything's on, some things were more difficult to make work probably, and things that weren't working before have been removed from the new game. I actually would guess that a lot of these things will come back, and Miles does talk about that in his blog here. If they want to come back, they will reappear, but only when they can work properly. So with this, things have been removed from the game. Touchline shouts are no longer going to be in Football Manager, mainly because they didn't work the way that Football Manager wanted them to in the first place, and I think a lot of people will be upset about this one. No shouts. It doesn't let you then, as a manager, impact the players on the pitch directly as they are playing. You have to wait for your moments, although that was the problem with them before, that they weren't working. You'd have to wait for a break in the game before the shout would actually be applied, which was obviously, that's not realistic, is it? The social media screen has also gone. The data chalkboard has gone. You can no longer create a club. There's no versus mode. Challenge mode has been removed, and fantasy draft has been removed. All of these things, if there is a market for them and if the data shows that people want these things in the game, they're the type of things that I'm sure that Football Manager will bring back. But for FM25, no longer in the game. Speaking of fantasy draft, though, there has been a huge announcement of the invitational FIFA E World Cup of Football Manager, which takes place in Liverpool in August this year. So, again, if you want me to enter that, get it in the comments down below. And if you want to enter that, we'll talk about that in a second. But let's continue through this big, huge blog here, talking about the new UI for a new era. So the way that we will play the game is going to completely change. No longer are we going to have the same setup where you have the tabs down the side and you have the screens that we are used to. I'm sure that they'll be in the game, but they will look slightly different. So we now have tiles and cards, which you may have known as panels beforehand, which is what I would have called them in the old version of the engine with the old skins that we use. They are the different these are little tiles here, look, which show the same information, but in varying degrees of detail. And if you click these will then open up into cards, which look like this, which is like a more whole screen detailed view of everything. So this is where you will find all your pages, and the blog seems to describe that this is the way that we will navigate the game. We will go through different screens that will be presented to us. We'll then have tiles which we can click on, which will open up into cards, and this is where we'll get all of the information that we need, and it will all then link back to the main screen, which is no longer the inbox, which is where we spend most of our time as football managers, going through your mail and going through all of your news items to see what's going on in the world. Instead of the inbox, now we have the portal. The portal looks like this, which has all of your relevant information on like a home screen, which a lot of people are, I'm not sure, completely on board with yet. But then again, change is always difficult for lots of people. I like it. I think it looks really clean. I personally really like the way that the new UI looks. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. A lot of people are saying it seems targeted towards console and maybe even mobile, which I can kind of see that. But also, I mean, there's literally lots of disclaimers on the screen saying this is from design files and not from a game build. So it will look different. They'll have different resolutions. This looks like this is on quite a small resolution of a screen. If you imagine on most people's PC monitors, this would actually stretch up in a way that Football Manager at the moment looks different if you're playing on a laptop compared to a monitor. So I wouldn't read into that too much. I actually think it looks quite clean. I like the fonts. I like the way it looks. The skin is going to be different when it comes to the real game too. So this is kind of a very basic version that I think they just wanted to show you that Football Manager is in the works and give you a bit of an idea of how it's going to look in the new game. I'm a fan personally, but again, opinions and all that. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Do you think it looks a little bit too tailored towards console, mobile? Do you worry that that's the way that the game is going? Are you scared about the new developments? Do you like the direction that the new game seems to be heading in? I want to hear your thoughts too. And this is the final screen that they showed us. This is the match. Well, it's not the match engine. It's a match screen. It's like the home screen in a match. Well, the game is going on. Looks like now we do get 2D on the home screen, which I think is a really cool little update. And then it will go into highlights where we see it in 3D. And they've not shown us anything about the 3D engine yet, which is maybe intriguing, especially with the new engine. I know that there's huge hopes for what that engine is going to look like in FM25. Nothing yet though, so we're going to have to wait for that one. I like this. We've got some nice information presented in a slightly different way, but everything seems to be there. You've got your tactics up the left-hand side here. You got pause it up here. And then I like the idea that you've got a 2D screen, a 2D display of the engine here, so you can kind of see what's going on without seeing the highlights. So I'm a fan. Like I said, I'm feeling positive. If they deliver on what they're trying to deliver, I feel like we're in a good place. I'm definitely excited for the new game. Miles finishes off the blog by talking about the fact that FMFC members will possibly be given the opportunity to come and game test in early September all the way through to October before the game releases. So if you want to be involved in that, make sure you're an FMFC member by signing up, and look out for the news where you get to hopefully sign up to go and do that. I will definitely be putting my name forward to go and try and play the game a little bit early. Like I said, though, I'd love to hear from you guys what you think about FM25. Now that we've given a little bit of a sneak preview on things, your opinion's going to be really, really interesting to me on that one. But let's look at the next thing. The next thing I wanted to talk about, as I mentioned before, was this FIFA E World Cup of Football Manager, which begins this year on FM24. And Football Manager have officially partnered with FIFA, which I think is just an amazing thing anyway. We've got the new Premier League license, which could be something we could have talked about in today's video too. And if we were doing these videos regularly, that could have been something we discussed previously. They seem to be getting some really big licenses, partnerships, which I think is just huge news for the game going forwards. The bigger names that get involved, you'd imagine the bigger the funding and the bigger this game can become, which is, I think, as a viewer of this channel and watching this video, I'm sure that's something that you want to see. I definitely want to see that myself, obviously. There is going to be a Football Manager esport that begins in August this year. They've partnered with Arsene Wenger, who talks you through the idea that there is going to be a Football Manager World Cup. He talks about being 4-4-2 and things, and it's a lovely little advert with him. The FIFA E World Cup of Football Manager is an invitational this year, so you will be invited. You'll sign up and then they will invite certain people. But going forwards, if it is a success this year, and whoever wins, it's going to be so you can represent England, for example, in the World Cup on Football Manager. If it is successful, this will continue in future years where it'll become a qualifying event and more like an esport. So like the events that you see run in conjunction with FIFA, or EAFC, as it is officially called these days, of course. I just think this is, I don't know what to think about this one personally. I'll probably sign up. I'll probably try and represent England, right? You guys should go and do that as well. If you go to FIFA.gg, everything is on there. In fact, let's go to that page now and we can have a look at how it is described. The event will pit the world's finest gaming tacticians against each other. The first ever FIFA eWorld Cup of Football Manager will take place between the 29th of August to the 1st of September. Arsene Wenger is an event ambassador, and all of the information is on here. I'm skeptical. I'm not going to lie to you. How Football Manager translates into an esport, I have my concerns. There's a lot of RNG, the random nature of Football Manager. Is it an esport? How does it go? How much can things be exploited in the engine? Especially if we're playing on this year's engine, there are some very obvious ways that you can manipulate the game in the way that is better for you. And you see that in some of the competitions that have happened. We'll see, is I think how I'm going to approach this. I would love this to be a success, and I would love this to be a thing that, you know, can go and become a proper esport, but we will see. We will see. Let me know what you think of that in the comments down below. That is definitely an interesting one for me. And finally, in today's video, I wanted to talk about this tweet that came out a few weeks ago on June the 19th. So about, 10 days ago? Miles of Expired Film Club here tweeted this video of him with his dad with the caption, "Did my dad invent Football Manager?" And it is the most wholesome story of a man and his dad. Well, his dad, who's pretty much been playing Football Manager on manual mode. He's been playing Football Manager without the game Football Manager. He's invented a team, as it says here, called North London. And for years and years and years now, he's been playing out this world by keeping documents of all of the look, here's all the printouts of all the stats of all the games and all the results that he's been playing out with his made-up team of North London. And it's just one of the most wholesome stories that you can see. Look how much there is. I even saw a video that he kind of did as a follow-up to this of the dad playing out the football matches, and he's got a little soft ball that he plays around the house and actually plays out the games. Look at the transfers that he's done. I love this one as he scrolled down here as well, that some of these players on the 0203 squad here, I mean, Carsten Ramelo's on there, Figo, some of the real players on there are amazing. He's got Ronaldinho in on loan to North London, which is great. But some of the players are made up. D. Harris and J. Harris are academy graduates, which is just lovely, who he scouted over the years. For example, I'm in goal. So Miles is in goal. Look, Miles Harris is in goal, which is just lovely. It's just wholesome. It's just very wholesome. And the depth that he's gone into is actually scary. It would scare Football Manager players. I think, which is it's just lovely if we scroll through to the end. So they're going to do a podcast called A Game of Two Halves, A Game of No Halves, sorry, which is linked here. So if you want to go find that, go on X and search in here, and you can see Miles and his dad talking about that game. Now I wanted to share it. I wanted to talk about it in a video because I think it's just genuinely lovely and wholesome. And yeah, that's where we'll leave it for today. Thank you for watching. Hopefully you like this sort of, like I said, I want it to be informal. I wanted to talk about Football Manager things that have caught my attention. If you see something that you want me to talk about in a video, please tag me on Twitter or DM me, or, you know, find me on any of my socials, because you know what? Let's talk about Football Manager stuff regularly. Let's have a lovely little informal chat every now and then, because it's nice and it's something, these are the things that I find interesting. So let's share it together. And we need a name. Football Manager lately, something like that. Let me know in the comments down below. Thank you for watching though. Please subscribe to the channel. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.